A review of Jerry Seinfeld's book, Is This Anything? By Paul Leslie. Is This Anything is Jerry Seinfeld's first book in more than 25 years. Jerry notes that comedians routinely ask one another, "Is this anything?" before sharing what may be a humorous thought or observation. Well, this book is 5 decades worth of material that passed the peer review. It's an impressive 480-page hardcover book, but doesn't seem the least bit daunting. Flipping to any page had me cackling and at times really rolling. I recall checking out Jerry's first book, Sign Language, from the public library when I was a high schooler. It fascinated me that Jerry found humor in everything. Any object, stage of life, diversion, or distraction. It's all funny if you think about it. If I'm wrong, don't tell me. I renewed the book so many times that my parents ended up getting me a copy for my birthday, which I still have. I learned about Jerry's sophomore book from an interview I had the opportunity to do with George Shapiro, Jerry's personal manager. It was then I learned that I had been waiting since the 90s for this. By the way, if you missed that interview, I suggest you give it a play. So, do the comedic musings of Jerry Seinfeld entertain from the page as well as they can from the stage? The answer is yes. The book is consistently funny, and it's impressive that someone could have had a lifetime of so many insightful observations about seemingly mundane things. Is This Anything is the complete comedic archive of everything Jerry Seinfeld has written. Almost half a century of yellow legal pads are compiled to make this book. It's unlike anything I've ever seen. It's an autobiography in the form of pieces of stand-up comedy. It starts with the 70s, and each decade has a brief introduction where Jerry puts into perspective what was going on at the time. It gives you some context about what Jerry was seeing, thinking, and feeling during those times. The autobiographical details are really interesting, and it doesn't seem Jerry has forgotten a thing. His recall of detail is impressive and indicative of how his mind works. I found myself constantly entertained as I explored the bits from the 70s all the way into the teens. However, there is an added cerebral element. It's fascinating how Jerry was able to examine the most mundane minutiae with such wit and cleverness. It's marveling perceptiveness. He sums it up in the book. The essential building blocks of comedy very often are an elegant intertwining of really dumb and really smart. You need both to make comedy. I wonder if anybody alive has more of a love and fascination for comedy than Jerry Seinfeld. One thing is abundantly clear from reading this book. Helping people laugh is what Jerry Seinfeld was born to do. Jerry writes in the introduction to the teens about the age of Corona, pointing out that there is no going to clubs to see stand-up comedians, and defines the art form. Stand-up is about a brief, fleeting moment of human connection. I'm not sure if Jerry Seinfeld will ever release any more filmed comedy specials, or if there will be another book. I get a feeling his comedy will be solely in the now, those brief, fleeting moments of human connection. It's what anyone who has ever seen him has experienced. For a moment, it was just you and the comedian. That will be the only way to experience Jerry Seinfeld. Live. Seinfeld had a concert scheduled right in my neck of the woods. It was just after I interviewed George Shapiro that it was officially announced that the concert had been canceled due to Corona. Of course, it was a bummer, but I couldn't help but think about the cathartic release of the very first time seeing stand-up comedy when this is all over. Can you imagine what that will feel like? In the meantime, I take comfort in this book and the thought that Jerry's Bic pen and yellow legal pad are probably coming in handy these days. Is This Anything by Jerry Seinfeld was published by Simon & Schuster. Publication date October 6, 2020.